and thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins, where I compare books with their movie adaptations. My name is Laura, and today is actually a follow-up video on yesterday's video. So yesterday I had a guest on the show, Preston, and he and I discussed I Am Legend, the book, versus the 2007 movie. And at the time of filming, I had also seen Last Man on Earth, but I had not yet watched Omega Man, Last Man on Earth and Omega Man being two other adaptations of this book. And so in that video, Preston had seen Omega Man, so he talked about that, and we both kind of touched on Last Man on Earth, but the focus was on the Will Smith movie. And so now, since I have seen all three adaptations, I thought I would have a follow-up video where I just kind of touch on some of my thoughts on the three movies, specifically Omega Man, since I hadn't seen it at the time of filming yesterday's video. So I would recommend checking out yesterday's video because I will be referencing some things we discussed. So you don't like have to have seen it in order to watch this video, but I think it does help. So yeah, we have The Last Man on Earth from 1964 starring Vincent Price, Omega Man from 1971 starring Charlton Heston, and then 2007 starring Will Smith, and then the book by Richard Matheson was from 1954. Aren't you tired of being hunched over your laptop and ending the day with a crook in your neck, tight shoulders, and a sore back? There has to be a better way. Well, you're in luck because there is a better way. This adjustable laptop stand is the answer to your problems. Change the height and angle as needed, and you can say goodbye to those aches and pains. Add the keyboard and mouse, and you're really set. I don't know how I ever worked on my laptop without this. Working from home just got a whole lot better. Click the link in the description and get yours today. All cheesiness aside, this laptop stand really is incredible. I got it a year ago and I don't know how I ever worked on my laptop without it. Like seriously, it has helped so much. And if you click the link in the description, it is an affiliate link, so it does benefit the channel at no cost to you. And so in yesterday's video, Preston had said that Omega Man was his favorite of the three movies, and now that I have seen all three, I would agree. I enjoyed Omega Man the most. A complaint I had with I Am Legend, the movie, was that the first third or so I just found kind of boring and not very compelling, but that was not the case with Omega Man. Like when it's just him alone in Omega Man, he's in LA, which is the same as the book. But yeah, I found that very entertaining and I was not bored at all. And I think part of the reason for that, with I Am Legend at least, could be because he has his dog with him. He isn't losing touch with his, he's not going as insane because he has a dog, like a therapy dog if there ever was one, right? And it's helping him stay centered in a way. Whereas in the book and all the other movies, he doesn't have that. And so he just is so lonely and he has no comfort in his life and he's just going a bit crazy. And we see that in Omega Man, and we see him rewatching this Woodstock documentary that he clearly has seen a lot because he's repeating it back verbatim, which there's also a few things in Omega Man that I Am Legend clearly took from, because him repeating back a movie verbatim, him talking and hanging out with mannequins. Also, like in his apartment, he has, borrowed / stolen these famous paintings, and that is in Omega Man and I Am Legend. But yeah, in Omega Man, I found it very entertaining as he's just going about his day in empty Los Angeles. It's entertaining, but we also see that he is, like I said, losing touch with the reality, and he feels like he hears phones ringing, and then he goes back to his home and he has the statue he plays chess with, and we see him like dressing up in like these Victorian outfits, and he's also drinking a lot, which was the case in the book. Whereas yeah, in the Will Smith movie, you don't see him drinking, and he seems to have more of a schedule, which in the book he had a schedule as well. But in 2007 I Am Legend, he was just too put together, I would say. Yeah, you see him talking to mannequins, but I feel like it just wasn't the same level of loneliness and going crazy. Also in I Am Legend, you see him running on a treadmill. Like you have all of New York City to run in, right? Like there's no traffic, there's no pedestrians, there's like nothing to stop you from just running outside. Like I guess you do have like some wild animals living in New York City, because New York City is like abandoned, obviously, so there are like wild animals. So I guess that's why he doesn't run outside. But yeah, I was like, man, if I had the whole city to run in, like I would not be running on a treadmill. But I just realized the wild animals aspect, because the dark seekers or whatever can't come out in the daytime, so they're not a threat, right? But I guess to be ultra safe, he runs on a treadmill inside. Anyway, and then yeah, in Omega Man, the vampire people, they aren't just like these mindless, brainless, zombie-like things. They are albino and they wear these black cloaks, and they're very much like a cult, essentially, I guess. And they're very well spoken. And so that was a big difference from this movie compared to the other adaptations and from the book as well, which spoilers from here on out, because from now I'm going to discuss spoilers for the book as well as Omega Man. But in I Am Legend, like the ending, the huge ending reveal is that Robert Neville is now like the monster, and he's the outsider, and he's the minority, and he's the one people fear, and he needs to be the one who they get rid of. And that is the climax of the book. Whereas in Omega Man, that happens very early on, where he is kidnapped by this group, and he sees that they are like sentient, building this new society, and that he is the odd one now, and they want him dead because he's like trying to track them down in the daytime and stuff. So he is the threat to them. However, he is saved by some other humans that are still around. And so that happens early on in the movie. So it isn't the climactic moment that it was in the book. And then also as far as his immunity goes, so in the book and in the Vincent Price movie, he says that he thinks he is immune because when he was in Panama, he was bit by a vampire bat. And he's like, that vampire bat must have been carrying like the vampiric gene. And so it made me immune to the virus, which is like kind of like okay, I guess that could be an excuse. But in the Charlton Heston movie, we see him in a flashback. He is on a plane and he has like the one and only vaccine or whatever that is, they need to increase the production of this vaccine or whatever. But then the helicopter crashes, and so there is only like one vial left, and so he just hurries and gives it to himself because, you know, what can he do basically? So that is why he is immune. In the 2007 movie, we never see why he is immune. Like it's just a coincidence, I suppose. Which also, in all three movies, he is some kind of scientist, especially in I Am Legend and The Last Man on Earth. We see him like in a lab before all of this happens, and he is a scientist. Whereas in the book, he was just your normal run-of-the-mill guy, which I actually liked that. And also in yesterday's episode, Preston talked about how this book introduced like technobabble, where Robert Neville is explaining why this virus happens and what the reasoning is, and based on all this research he's doing on it. But Preston also pointed out the fact that Robert Neville he's not a scientist. He doesn't know what he's doing with this research, right? He's just kind of trying to figure it out as he goes. And so that made me realize how in the book, Robert Neville, like he thinks he knows so much about this virus and he's getting so smart, but really he could be like totally in left field, totally delusional and insane, and he is making no progress at all. And he thinks he's learning so much when really he's just going crazy, right? And I feel like that is the case because then when the woman is introduced, he is talking to her about the virus and he's using, saying whatever he thinks. And she looks at him like kind of perplexed. And he's thinking like, oh, I'm so used to this terminology and I'm so used to this because of my research. But to the average person, they're just so confused because they're not used to this. When really we later find out that that woman is like a key person in the structuring of this new society and how this new society has done research on the virus and they have these pills that they take. And so clearly she is knowledgeable about the virus. And so the fact that she's looking at him like confused when he's giving his theories, I think that shows the fact that he was totally off base and didn't know what he was talking about. And so she's just like you don't know as much as you think you do, actually. But yeah, in all versions, he comes across another woman, and in the book and in the 1964 Vincent Price adaptation, he is skeptical on if the woman is infected or not. Whereas in I Am Legend, like that's never a thing because she clearly is very healthy. Whereas in Omega Man, he comes across another woman, and again, there's no question that she is healthy because when people turn, like they go white and their eyes are white. However, they do talk about how people can turn like in an instant, which begs the question, like if it's been years, like why is it taking them so long to get the virus? But I guess when COVID happened, there were some people who they didn't get COVID for like the first year, and then it was after the first year that they finally got it or something, right? So I guess it just varies depending on the person. But anyway, so there's this commune of humans that are still around, and there's even some children, and the children, because they were like children in this environment, they're immune to the virus. But yeah, so he meets this woman and she is an African American, and they, fall in love and have a romance. However, near the end, she quickly turns, which I was very surprised by. She goes out shopping, and when she comes home, she has become one of them. So I was very shocked by that, like in a pleasantly surprised kind of way, because I did not see that coming. However, by the end, like she does get saved. Neville's blood, because he gave himself that shot, his blood is the cure. And so ultimately his blood helps save her in the end. So she doesn't become one of them officially, but she starts being brainwashed. Like as soon as she turns, the leader of this group is brainwashing people. And so she starts to follow him, and the bad guy had killed her brother, but because she's brainwashed, she's like, oh, it had to be done. Like, it's okay. He explained it to me. So that whole section I found very compelling, and I really like that a lot. But yeah, there is like the savior Christ symbolism, like with Omega Man, as well as Last Man on Earth and I Am Legend, I would say. In the book, there's like not, I don't think, but in all the movies there are really, which, because in Last Man on Earth, he dies when he's in a church and he's like in front where like the podium is, and he's up there talking to them, and then they stab him and then he dies. And in Omega Man, he is killed by being stabbed again by this huge spear, which when Christ was on the cross, they like stabbed him in the side. So that seemed like they did that intentionally. So not only do you have him dying in Omega Man in the end, and he's even posing in a similar Christ-like fashion, but also the fact that his blood is what will save humanity, right, is also very reminiscent of Christ. And there's even a part in Omega Man when he's with this group of humans, and one of the children is like, are you God? So clearly, you know, telling the audience that they want us to make this connection. But also, so in the book, like I said, he realizes that he is the monster and he is killing these people, so they therefore want him to die, whereas in the end of Omega Man, when they realize his blood is the cure, the woman he's in love with, her brother, he like thinks that Charlton Heston should like go out there and either just kill the group, because he knows where they are in the daytime. So he's like, you can go right now and just like blow up their headquarters and kill them. But Charlton Heston is like, you know what? We don't need to do that because we're going to be leaving soon and they can just have their space and we'll have ours and we can be at peace. But then the brother is like, you know, either kill them or save them and give them your immunity, whatever cure, which they don't want to be cured, right? But the kid doesn't realize that, and so he decides to go and talk to these people himself, and ultimately he ends up dying. But yeah, so Charlton Heston, though, like, he didn't want to kill out these people. He was fine going his separate ways and leaving them be, which again was different than the book. But it's different from the book in a lot of ways with Omega Man, right? And like Preston said in the episode, Richard Matheson, he feels like it's so far removed from his book that he doesn't like have opinions on the changes because he feels like it's just such a totally different story, which it is in a lot of ways. But I guess that wraps it up on random thoughts I had about this book and movie. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. But yeah, ultimately I would recommend both The Last Man on Earth as well as Omega Man. I do like Omega Man the most, and I could definitely, like, I for sure would watch Omega Man again because I did find it entertaining. And it is kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like hokey or just kind of out there and almost like a parody, which is not a comedy, and yet there's aspects of it that are just, I don't know, it was just very entertaining and funny at times, and yet at the same time it was just a fun movie while also having a lot of interesting elements to it that you could discuss with other people, I guess is the best way to say it. So yeah, I would recommend it. I would also recommend Last Man on Earth. I like that one a lot too, and it is the closest to the book. In Omega Man, we never see his past with a wife. I guess he never did have a wife, so that's totally gone. And yeah, like I get I Am Legend, the movie, didn't want to do the same old, but the fact that his wife and child just die in a helicopter crash is just kind of boring, especially compared to what happens in the book, right? But anyway, I don't see myself ever watching the Will Smith I Am Legend movie again. Twice in my life is enough for me. So that's my personal opinion. But let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.